What's up, guys? 0-1 yesterday. It was a close game, and Freddie Peralta was not good enough to quite do it, although the game was tied. Milwaukee was losing earlier, wound up tying the game, and it was tied, I think, into the ninth inning, and they wound up losing. It's unfortunate. Did not want that to happen, obviously. I'm only going to have one play today, which I think is another pitching mismatch, although this one's going to involve laying a favorite, but I think that it is justified. There's really not a lot that I like on this card here. I was looking like maybe I wanted to go against Detroit because they're on the verge of a sweep over Cincinnati. And Detroit, I believe, plays tomorrow against Cleveland, who's leading their division. So that's a huge series starting tomorrow. So it's possible Detroit overlooks Cincinnati. So situationally, Cincinnati seems like it would be a decent way to look, but the market looks to be against it. And the starting pitching matchup is really not one where I'd want to actually go against Detroit because their ace, Tariq Skubal, is pitching against Graham Ashcraft, who's been pretty questionable to say the least for Cincinnati. So I just can't do that. If it was a different pitching matchup, I might. And I will mention Tanner Gordon is making his major league debut for Colorado. I don't know what to think about that. I'm not going to just jump in on Gordon, even though it is his major league debut. In Kansas City obviously has never seen him before. Gordon's a little bit older. Kansas City has Brady Singer pitching, and he's one of their two really good starters. It's him and Cole Reagans are both really good, but Singer actually doesn't have very good numbers against Colorado. I haven't looked into whether or not that's been on the road at Coors. Maybe he doesn't do well at Coors because he is a good pitcher, but his track record in a small sample size isn't good against Colorado. So I could see some reasons to take Colorado here, but Tanner Gordon is very much an unknown. So even though he's going to be unfamiliar to the Royals hitters, if you look at the scouting on him in the minor league stats, it's not really totally impressive. He seems like kind of a mediocre pitcher who might be able to stick in a major league rotation just because he has a variety of pitches. He's got a fastball that I think is low to mid 90s. It's something pretty average. He does have a cutter that is kind of a strikeout pitch, has decent movement on that fastball, curve, slider, I guess, that seem like they're not the most excellent pitches really. So I don't know what to think about that. I'm looking at his AAA stats. His stats don't look good. He's got a really high ERA, in the 4s and 5s, pitching for AAA Albuquerque, which is the highest level that he's pitched in the minors. And his whip is not that good there, 1.2 something. Although the 1.2 something, it's not horrible. It's indicative that his ERA should maybe be a little bit lower than it is. He's allowed some home runs and too many hits, but AAA Albuquerque is also, they're in a league that's notorious for being a hitting league, and their stadium is a very unfriendly pitching environment too, unfriendly park to pitchers. So maybe you could say he's a little bit better than what we see there, but I'm not going to get involved in that. No, thank you. And then, of course, Red Sox Yankees have a rubber match tonight after the Red Sox got completely blasted yesterday. After the game was pretty close early on, Red Sox just completely falter later in the game. It's an interesting pitching matchup in tonight's game with Cutter Crawford, who's probably the second best starter on the Red Sox besides Tanner Houck. Crawford does have good numbers in his history against the Yankees, holding them to below a 200 average and a sample size of 50 or 60 at bats. So that's pretty good, but maybe some of that was because the Yankees weren't familiar with him yet. And Luis Gil is pitching for the Yankees, and he's, I would say, very much a question mark, even though his stats have been really good this year, except the fact that he walks way too many. But he's been very difficult to hit. I've talked to him on him before and had a huge amount of strikeouts, but it seemed like as soon as I started jumping on him a couple of times to win some games, he started completely falling off. And he's had 3 pretty bad starts in a row, really. So I don't know if that trend is going to continue, if he's going to get up for a game against the Red Sox. He does have good numbers in a somewhat small sample size against the Red Sox too, 20 or 30 at bats worth or something. But again, maybe it was the Red Sox not having familiarity with him. I don't know. I think my lean in that one would probably really be to the under, but I'm not really going to do that just because it's a really intense rivalry. And the two starting pitchers are pretty good and have good numbers against the opposing hitters. But after yesterday, the bullpen scenarios might not really be the best for an under. But yesterday's game was also so high scoring on the part of the Yankees that the recreational bettors are not going to be coming in and wanting to take an over, or wanting to take an under here. They're all going to be taking an over, which they are, but it does actually look like the cash percentage is actually on the over in that one too, with the tickets also being public, obviously. But it looks like the move actually has been to the under on the line, which has gone from 8.5 juice to the over to 8.5 juice to the under. So maybe that high cash percentage isn't right. Anyway, the actual game I'm going to be on, I think this is a huge pitching mismatch, man. I'm going to jump in on this one. This is going to be the San Diego Padres. I'm going to take them. I mean, they lost yesterday, so this is going to be, I believe, the rubber match against Arizona after the Padres won the first game. I think we're fine taking the full game here. The bullpen scenario, I mean, is not good for either team, really. San Diego used 5 relief pitchers yesterday, and the Diamondbacks used 6. So both of them used like some of their better relievers, but I think the Diamondbacks, I don't think their bullpen is really that good. So I think we're okay going full game. But if you're laying a 1.5 run line, which is what I'm going to be doing here, you do kind of need to, I mean, that's a full game play. You do kind of want to be taking it a full game. If I was taking this first 5 inning, I'd be laying a half run line on this. But yeah, yesterday's game was somewhat high scoring. Both teams ran through a lot of their relief pitchers, but the Diamondbacks really used more of theirs. They don't have too many relievers left for this game, really. So I think San Diego's bullpen might be the slightly better one in general, but I think they're in slightly better shape after yesterday's game. Both bullpens not in good shape. And then we look at the starting pitching matchup here. I think this is a very big mismatch here. And maybe the ERAs don't make it totally obvious how much of a mismatch this is. Although looking at the market, of course, San Diego is going to be public. I mean, the public, they're off the Arizona train. Arizona, this is not last year anymore. Arizona has not been playing well this year. They're not looking like the National League champions they were last year. They're below 500. San Diego's above 500, although it's not a huge discrepancy. But public is coming in on San Diego at 80% of the tickets, but also 87% of the cash is on San Diego, and the line's moved up on the money line from minus 155 to minus 159. So I think we do see market movement coming in on the San Diego side, moving the line up, and it does look like even though San Diego's public, it looks like some of the significant money is also coming in on San Diego, which also would kind of indicate that this line's probably not going to go back down unless it just gets so high that professionals start saying, well, the value's now on the other side. I don't know, but I think it makes sense to just kind of jump in on San Diego. But the starting pitching matchup is really a lot of this play here. So again, I don't mind playing this first 5 inning either if you want to play the Padres half run line or split the half run line in the first 5 inning with the money line, whatever it is in the first 5 inning. But I'm doing it full game. I'm going to split full game, minus 1.5 runs at like plus 120 something. You can get it right now. And the other half on like minus 160, which I think is the best money line you can get right now. So you're effectively making like a minus 1 run line on the Padres. And if you can find the minus 1 run line at DraftKings or whatever, it's probably around plus 100 or somewhere in that range. So I don't mind playing it that way. Excuse me, either just playing the minus 1 run line full game. But I think if you find the 1.5 run line and the money line at different books, I've talked about this before, that you can split the bet half and half, and that's effectively making a minus 1 run line. But if you're shopping books, you can get slightly better numbers on it. So it's a slightly better value if you do it that way. Anyway, the starting pitching matchup, Ryan Nelson, I mean, his ERA is in the 5s, man, 5.42, and his whip indicates that maybe it's even worse than that with a 1.56 whip all season long. That means he's putting more than 1.5 base runners on per inning. This is not good. 49 strikeouts and 19 walks. That's not a good strikeout walk ratio. It's very low strikeout rate. He's not fooling guys, not striking them out. And 95 hits allowed in 73 innings. They keep rolling him out there, though, man. It's just kind of crazy to see. He's allowing way too many hits. That is so many hits, way more than 1 hit per inning, plus the walks on top of that. He's just putting way too many base runners on. And he doesn't particularly go that deep into his pitch counts, really. In his last start, they took him out after 5 innings, but he actually pitched fairly solid against the Dodgers on the road. So he got up for that game, man. But that could mean he's in line for regression again here. He had a bad start against Minnesota the time out before that. Showed up against the Dodgers, made a nice start against the Dodgers, 5 innings, 1 run. Did give up 6 hits and a walk, which isn't great, but in 3 strikeouts, that's not horrific. So he had a pretty good start, especially by his standards, against the Dodgers, but I don't know that he's going to be able to keep it up. I mean, his stats this season, they're some of the worst in baseball, man. And then you look at his stats against the Padres, their hitting numbers are not bad against him. They're 22 for 81, so it's a little bit of a low-ish batting average for what you'd expect when they're facing Nelson, who's so bad. But the batting average isn't the whole thing. The rest of the stats are just really bad for Nelson, too. So San Diego's 22 for 81 off him lifetime with 5 doubles, 4 home runs, 13 RBIs, a 12-9 strikeout walk ratio. So again, way too many walks. Not a huge strikeout rate. It's a 272 batting average, which is mediocre, but also an 826 OPS, which is getting into pretty high territory because of all those extra base hits and walks. Nelson has been seen quite a bit by the Padres, and he has not done particularly successfully against them. So I like going with the Padres for those reasons. Then on the other side, Dylan Cease, I actually think he's maybe even being shortchanged a little bit because his ERA at 4.24 doesn't look that good. It's a lot better than Nelson still, but people might look at this and think, well, the public's still coming in on the Padres, but they might still be undervaluing the Padres a little bit because Cease, his ERA doesn't look that good at 4.24, but his whip is way, way lower than Ryan Nelson's at 1.12. That is a much better whip, indicating that Cease's ERA should be a lot lower than it is. He's got one of the highest strikeout rates in baseball. I've mentioned it before, 130 strikeouts and 32 walks and 102 innings pitched. So even though the walk number might be slightly high, that strikeout walk ratio is insane. It's a high strikeout rate for the amount of innings pitched. He is striking a lot of guys out. He's probably like top several in all of Major League Baseball in strikeout rate, and he's only allowed 82 hits as well. So he has not been easily hittable. He's been quite good. Let me see here. I think he only has, what do we have here? He has only 4 starts where he's allowed 5 or more earned runs. A lot of starts this season, so that's not bad either. In 18 starts, that means 14 out of the 18 have been better than that. And he's coming off one of his worst starts of the season, a tough road start against Texas. Really went 3 2/3, 8 hits allowed, 6 earned runs, a couple homers, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts. So again, a lot of strikeouts, but he got lit up by Texas's hitters. So I think he's going to be in a bounce back spot here, man. He threw 84 pitches. He's used to throwing like near 100 pitches. 4 out of the previous 5 starts, he threw 100 pitches in each of them. He allowed 4 or fewer earned runs in all but one of those starts, which was against the Mets. In 3 of the 4, he allowed 3 or fewer earned runs. So it's not like he's like on this path now where I don't think he's pitching well. He faced some like hot hitting offenses, really. He faced the Mets on the road and had a bad start. Then he faced Milwaukee and did have 10 strikeouts against Milwaukee, but they're a pretty decent hitting team too, and he didn't do well there. Then he bounced back and had a great 7-inning, 1-hit performance against Washington. And then he backslid again and had a bad start against Texas, but he's been good overall this season, man. And the worst starts that he's had on the season have all been against pretty good hitting teams. And the Diamondbacks, I think, are kind of middle of the pack, I would say. He has started once against the Diamondbacks back on May 3rd and had a good start, 6 2/3, 3 hits allowed, 1 earned run, 8-0 strikeout walk ratio. But does that mean, that means Arizona's hitters are familiar with him now? Yeah, I mean, they are because he's in their division, but I don't think we can just say that alone is why we shouldn't play Dylan Cease here because his track record is good. Like, just look at what he's done for this entire season. It's good. And his stats against Arizona are good, not just including that one start. He has basically dominated Arizona when he's faced them throughout his career. We have a decent sample size, excuse me, of 50 at-bats. Arizona's hitters are 9 for 50 off him with 3 doubles, no other extra base hits, 2 RBIs, a 13-1 strikeout walk ratio. So he's held them to a 180 batting average and 436 OPS. So Cease historically has done very well against Arizona's hitters. He's the much better pitcher, significantly better than Ryan Nelson. Cease is one of the best strikeout guys in baseball, and Ryan Nelson is one of the worst starters in baseball, in my opinion. And Nelson's stats are just not good against these San Diego hitters either. So that's the one play. We got San Diego Padres, and I'm splitting this half full game run line and half full game money line. So it's -1.5 actually at +130 for half the bet, and money line. So that's the run line, and then -160 money line for the other half of the bet. Let's do it, man. Let's get a win from the fucking Padres. Come on, man. The Fathers. Let's hope Arizona's calling them their daddy by the end of this. Come on, man. Peace.